This is take like 17 of this in what's supposed to be a very easy podcast to record. Just me, myself sitting here with you and my thoughts. It's just been one of those days. So let's dive right in. Hey, my name is Sarah and welcome back to a self-care Sunday edition of the Talking Fast podcast, where every Sunday moving forward it's just you and me, my couch, or maybe I'm on a dock. I don't know. I could be anywhere. Just you and me though, a microphone, our thoughts, and trying to battle those Sunday scaries together. We've done one other edition of the self-care Sunday edition of the Talking Fast podcast. Very long title. I'm so sorry. But we did one, and then I went on a 2-month hiatus due to mental health and not being able to take on the podcast anymore. It was kind of ironic. In that episode, I talked a lot about burnout, and it was as I was editing that episode, I'm watching myself in the camera and I'm editing. And I'm talking about burnout and am I burnt out? I have this moment where I'm like, am I burnt out? Maybe I am burnt out. And I pause it. I'm like, that girl has no life in her eyes. She's just like gonzo, zombie. Needless to say, I was burnt out. Proceeded to then take a 2-month break, refresh, restart, come back better than ever. And now we're back. And we're back with Self-Care Sundays. So we're going to do these almost every Sunday. I'm aiming for every Sunday. We'll see how it goes. The whole idea is that we can be part of your morning, night, evening routine, whatever it is, to help you get through the Sunday scaries and just look to the week ahead. And we're really just going to get vulnerable, talk about our thoughts and feelings. It's just going to be a brain dump. And hopefully you enjoy it. And this will be alongside the weekly Wednesday episodes, which are more focused on interviews and bringing on creators and entertainment and that stuff. And this one we get a little bit more soft girl, I guess. So without further ado, let's start with a vibe check. My vibe check when I started recording this almost 2 hours ago the first time is very different than now. Now my vibe is annoyed with myself. But that's just, it happens sometimes. But in general, I'm feeling a little anxious, and because this is a very special edition of the Self-Care Sunday podcast, because I turn 28 tomorrow. This is the eve of my 28th birthday. It is peak Sunday scaries because I'm getting a year older in the morning. And I talked a little bit about this on a walk and talk video that I filmed this week on TikTok, but this is my first birthday where I genuinely feel so anxious and do not want to turn 28. It's funny because I've not had fun in 27 either, but I don't normally get freaked about age or my birthday or any of that stuff. But something about this year, man, 28 is really freaking me out. And I said to my therapist, I was like, I think it's because I'm a real adult. And she's like, well, what's a real adult mean? I couldn't even answer that. I don't even really have a reason. I've been trying to wrap my head around it because I want to be able to talk to you about it, but I really don't know why. So I'd love to know if you felt the same way, or if there's a birthday or a year that specifically made you spiral a little bit. I'm kind of having an existential crisis. Who am I? Big pie in the sky stuff. And I don't know. 28 it really is an age I don't associate with. I really do not feel like I'm 28 years old. And I understand, even my dad will say to me, Sarah, I'm in my 50s and I don't feel I still feel like I'm 30. And I understand that, but this is the first year where I'm really not quote unquote ready for it. I'm actually usually I am the youngest of my friend group. And most of my best girlfriends are a year older than me. So I always find that they turn the year before me, and then I'm used to it. And then I'll start referring to myself as the age before I turn it. Do you know what I mean? So as an example, last year when I was turning 27, I was calling myself 27 as of April, because all my girlfriends were already 27. So I kept going yeah, I'm 27. And I'd be oh wait, I'm actually only 26. This year, that's not the case. I have not referred to myself as 28. I probably won't even. And to be honest, I'm usually a big celebrate my birthday. Love to be with my friends. Love to do the whole thing and feel special on that day. This year, I didn't even want to acknowledge it. I was literally going to fly to the cottage and just disappear for a few days and ignore everybody because I did not want to deal with turning 28. So that's the vibe this week. And that's why this is a really interesting episode, because it is the first Self-Care Sunday episode back and the eve of my 28th birthday. That's why, to be honest, after having to record this multiple times, I probably would have just given up if it wasn't one that I feel is actually a really important conversation to have. And I know age is but just a number, but it does give you the opportunity to reflect. And it's a weird time in my life. I just feel I really feel 28's hitting me in the face and I'm not ready for it. And it's kind of hypocritical because I've wanted to be out of 27 for so long. So let me know if you're this way. I know most obviously Happy New Year, January 1st is when you think of the new year, but I don't think of years based on what year it was. I think of how old I was when something happened. So that's why like birthdays are a really big milestone for me. And 27, and we'll talk about this. We're going to talk about 10 things that I learned at 27. 27 was one of the hardest years of my life, especially when it came to mental health. Nothing like major happened in the sense of like life altering things, but I had to deal with learning about the emotions and recovering and all of these things for things that had happened over the course of my entire life. So I've always been very good at like pushing through things and like ignoring my feelings and just putting them down and then storing them away and not like going through it. I had to go through a lot of emotions this year in order to like grow and evolve as a person, which was my big goal. And it was just tough mentally. And I don't think really anyone knew that I was going through it. I would like make comments about like feeling burnt out or this, that, but it wasn't like anything to do with workload or anything like that. It's just like, truly, I was processing like years and years and years of like trauma of stuff that's happened in my life in one calendar year. And that was a lot. I'm in a lot better place now because I can talk about it. But that's what I associate 27 with. I don't really have a ton. I mean, I have great memories. Like, that's not saying the whole year was horrible, but that's really what I think I'm going to associate 27 with, is that like mentally it was the most difficult year that I had to get through. And so I'm ready for like a new chapter. I'm ready for some change, but I also don't want to turn 28. So it's a little hypocritical. I guess I just don't really know what I want right now. And I think if that doesn't describe your late 20s, I don't know what does. With that being said, I do want to share 10 learnings I had in my 27th year. I made a TikTok and like an Instagram reel about this, but I wanted to like dive into it a little bit more because like those were just sentences on a screen, and I feel like this is the place where we deep dive in. So these are the 10 things I learned in my 27th year of life. The first one is that putting yourself first is not a bad thing. I think my entire life I have like associated putting myself first or doing things solely for myself as being a selfish person. And I don't know where it comes from, but for me, like being seen as a selfish person, being known as a selfish person, being a selfish person is something that I just like do not want. That's like stresses me out, the idea that people would perceive me that way, or that anything about that, because I know I am not a selfish person. But my entire life has been about not being a selfish person. And then in turn, I then like belittle my own feelings or like do things that like minimize how I feel in order to not be perceived as selfish or dramatic or any of those things. So this past year has really been about me and putting myself first and my mental health first and what I need in my life first. And with that, I've actually like grown stronger relationships and I felt better in every other part of my life. So it's crazy how like by putting yourself first, you then actually in turn can be more and do more for other people. I always associated anytime I want to do something for myself with being selfish, and that's not the case. Like putting yourself first is the most important. And I'm not saying in a way of like you're egotistical and it's like you versus the world and blah, blah, blah. We know that's not what I'm talking about. We're talking about ensuring that you are your best version of yourself in order to be your best version to show up for other people. I've really focused on that this year. I've really taken a step back and just like really focus on what I need and what I want out of my life. And it's been really difficult, but just because you put yourself first does not mean you're selfish. And I need to remind myself that a lot. So if you're someone that needs to be reminded, this is your reminder. The next thing is that goals can change. I think the hardest part for me about putting myself out there on the internet is that people hold you accountable to every little thing that you say in your entirety of the internet. Because like you can go back and you can pull it up, or people remember you for like doing one thing or saying one thing, and then they only associate you with that. When I've been doing this for 4 years full time, basically now. So it's like you evolve, you grow, your goals change, things you want change. And just because I said something maybe at like 21, no, I wasn't 21 on TikTok. Maybe I said something at 25. It does not mean that that's like what I want or how I feel now, because I've changed as a person. And that goes for goals too. I think for career goals, like I sometimes feel like I'm doing my younger self a disservice if I no longer want the same things in my career that I did when I was like 18, 19, that I thought would be like dream jobs or whatever, and I no longer desire those. But again, your goals can change. That is completely okay, because as you change and evolve as a person, your goals are going to change, what you want out of life is going to change, and give yourself the grace to not be disappointed in yourself or to chase after things that you no longer want just because you're trying to do it for like another version of you. You've changed, you've grown, you've evolved, and your goals can too, whether it's career or personal life. This was a big one for me this year, and it's kind of tough because today's actually like a pretty bad body confidence day for me, if I'm being completely vulnerable and honest with you. But it's that fitness doesn't need to be an aesthetic goal. I think all through my early 20s into my mid 20s, I was really focused on working out for the aesthetic of working out, for looking a certain way. And now I work out to feel a certain way. I run to feel a certain way. I lift weights to feel stronger. I go to the gym to clear my mind and just listen to my favorite playlists and go around and move my body, make myself feel better. And I have felt more confident in myself and my abilities and all of that because of it. I've had a couple of weeks where I haven't been working out as much, and I can definitely feel like the weight on me because of that. And I don't mean physical. I just mean like the weight of like not having as clear of a mind. And it just goes to show that fitness is such an important part of my life now, in the sense of getting up and moving my body really, really does help me in every other aspect of my life. And it's not for aesthetic goals. It's literally just for living a healthier lifestyle. And I have the best relationship I've ever had with health and fitness because of that, because I'm not doing it to try and fit into a dress that I bought that's a size too small, or to do any of the other toxic shit I used to do in my early 20s, to do the whole 30 or this or that. I'm truly working out for myself and for making myself feel better and stronger, as opposed to getting ready for a bikini. And that's like so important. And this is the first year I've truly felt that way. The next thing I learned in my 27th year is just to tell people you love them more. I need to start saying it more often. And I started saying it more often this past year, and I feel really good about that. I think it's important. People need to know that you love them. It is very important. And just tell your friends you love them more. And not like drunk at the bar going like, I love you so much. No, like I truly like now look them in the eyes and go, no, like I love you. I'm here for you. I love you. And I just need to say that more. The next thing I learned in my 27th year was that you don't need to be everything to everyone. We reference this on the podcast a ton, but if you've not listened to our episode with Tori Webster, I would go back and listen to it, because I think we're going to have her on again to do a full episode about the friendship pyramid. We talked a lot about how people in your life are there for different reasons, right? Like you have your tier 1 friends, 2, 3, 4, and all of those friendships serve different purposes in your life, and those relationships serve different purposes in your life. And that doesn't mean that they are not important, but there is different levels. There's people that you put more of your time and your effort into. There's the people that you go above and beyond for. And then there's the people that, you just grab a drink with once in a while and you catch up. And maybe that's the extent of what that is. And I think for me, I've really always struggled with like trying to be like tier 1 BFF, like best version of myself for absolutely everybody. And then in turn, you're actually not being your best version of yourself for the people that mean the most to you, because you're spreading yourself too thin and you're just doing too much for everyone. So I've really focused on putting the effort into the friendships that fuel me the most, and the relationships that fuel me the most, and the people that fuel me, and the people that I feel the best around. And it doesn't mean that I don't care about those other relationships. I do, but I just like change the way that I balance them now. And I think it's really important, because you cannot be everything to everyone. You cannot be tier 1 BFF to every single person. You know, as they say, a friend to all is a friend to none. And you don't want to be that person. You want to make sure that you are investing in the relationships that you have to the best of your ability. And you can't do that if you're trying to be absolutely like, I don't know, Pinterest aesthetic best friend for everyone. You can't do that. It does not exist. Next one for me is that running is so good for your mental health, at least for mine. It might not be for yours, and that's totally okay. Running is not for everyone. I'm fully aware of that. But for me, I love getting to do a sport that is fully for myself. I can be competitive if I want to, but it's with myself. I'm not doing it for the purpose of like turning it into a career or like trying to like get like anything out of it other than truly some physical activity and mental clarity. I get such mental clarity when I want to run. I also get to listen to my favorite music. Like once I realized with like working out that it's kind of undistracted time for me to just listen to my favorite music, it really shifted for me. And that goes for running as well. I get so excited. I have certain songs that I only listen to when I want to run, and I get so excited to run to them. It like just makes me so happy. And running has just become such a safe space for me. I also learned a lot about mental toughness through running. Like doing that half marathon was no joke. Like the second half, like the first 10K, I felt incredible. The second half, I wanted to go sob the entire time. I was in so much pain. I did not train to the best of my abilities, and I just was so mentally exhausted, but I pushed through and I coached myself in my brain, and I'd never really had to do that before. And it's so good because it's a sport that I can be so proud of myself in, for like setting goals, and like whether I hit a PR or I just like go on a run that's slower, but it's just like to enjoy the waterfront view or something. It's just so good for my mental health and clarity, and it's only for me, and it really ties in everything I've been talking about. And that's why I love the sport. And I can tell I'm like a dog now. It's like if I haven't gone on a run, gone on a walk, I like get all like antsy. And I've been antsy because I haven't been going on runs as much recently, and I need to keep prioritizing it because it makes me such a better version of myself. The next thing I learned at 27 is just book the trip. I'm such a yes girl for trips and vacations and this and that. And although sometimes I'm like frustrated that I'm not in a routine, or I come back and I'm out of it, I would not trade any of the trips I've been on in the past year for the world, any of it ever. I'm so grateful. And while I'm young and I have no responsibilities, like I don't have another human to look after, I don't have a dog to look after, I don't have any of those things. I can just book the trip. I don't want to be that person that like waits to travel until I'm retired. I want to do it while I'm young and I'm able, and I can do whatever I want. And yeah, and now that I'm in a spot financially where I don't have to like second guess it, it makes me like, that's what financial freedom gave me, was the ability to then also have freedom to travel. I never traveled growing up. It was not a thing I did. It's not a thing I could afford. And so that's where I truly feel like the most success, and like as an adult, is when I'm like, I have the ability and freedom to do that and travel freely as I wish. And so book the trip, make it work. You will never ever regret going. Like you won't regret it. I don't regret any travels experiences that I've had. And I just really reflected on that a lot this year. And it just like more than ever, I was like, okay, book the trip, go on the weekend away, do whatever. It's so important, and do it while you're young. Next thing I learned in my 27th year is that happiness is not a destination. I don't know about anybody else, but did you like grow up thinking that you like aim to be like happy one day, like, and then that's like it. You're like happy. That's it. It's like this thing I was chasing, as if it was like Disney World. Like I just like could get there, and then it was like, okay, you're happy and that's it. When it's so not true. And I don't know why it took me so long to like really figure that out. Everything ebbs and flows. Happiness is something that I now focus on in the moment. Like I focus on the moments in which I'm my happiest, and who I'm with and what I'm doing and who I'm surrounded by and the energy, as opposed to like chasing this like invisible thing of what is happiness, and I'm chasing this goal of being happy and whatever that means. I am a happy person. I have a very happy life, and I'm surrounded by happy people that make me happy. And that's like, that is being happy. But I keep thinking that like, just because I have down days or because I have down months or whatever, it doesn't mean that like my life isn't filled with happiness. But it is. And happiness is not a destination. It is a journey. And that is so like Pinterest, Tumblr bullshit of me to say, but it is the absolute truth. And I really learned that this year. We only have a couple more. And the second to last thing that I learned, well, I learned a lot of things in 27, but one of them is that balance looks different to everyone. What you can balance in your life versus what I can is different. And that's why I've never really been great at giving advice when people are like, how do you do it all? Like, how do you balance relationships and friendships and whatever, and your work and like social media and whatever? It's just because it's different for everyone. I've found something that works for me, and it changes. Maybe balance for me 1 month to the next looks a lot different. Maybe I'm more focused on work. Maybe I'm more focused on social media. Maybe I'm more focused on my relationships and those, but balance is different for everyone. And I really don't pass judgment for how people choose to balance their lives, because it is truly different for every single person. And what works for someone might not work for me. What works for me might not work for you, but balance is different for everyone. So we just have to like let people go on their own journey, go on their own path. I feel like a lot of these are just like me learning that it's just like everyone's got to do their own thing, and then I just got to focus on myself, because that's just the only way that you can live a fulfilled life. And finally, I feel like I talked about this a bit off the top. The probably most important thing that I took away from this year is that to get through it, you have to go through it. And to me, that means in order to get through a really difficult stage in my life and get through these feelings and get through these things that I had been holding on to, and like tension and all these things that I've been feeling for most of my life that I didn't even realize, I had to go through them. I went from not crying in a single therapy session to then like every single week hysterically sobbing. It's like I turned on the tap and I couldn't stop, because I finally was like dealing with things that I had suppressed for years. And like, as busy people, it happens. Like, I'm so incredibly talented at decompartmentalizing and then like disassociating and just focusing on staying busy as opposed to just like dealing with how I am physically feeling about something and shoving it down. And I will no longer do that in my life, because this past year I spent like dissecting and going through feelings and emotions that I had suppressed for like 5-10 years. And I never want to have to go through that again. And I will now start to deal with stuff in the moment, because going through it to get through it is like the most important thing. I would rather just get through it and go through it in the moment as opposed to have to deal with it all at once, because it is not fun dealing with all different traumas and all different things that you've been suppressing for years all at once. It is important, and I'm very happy I did it. And I feel like it's like I'm a token therapy person, because I came into therapy being like, I'm an open book. I tell the internet everything about myself. I was not an open book. Literally, my therapist probably looked at me and was like, this girl is lying. She's troubled. And it just took me a while to finally like realize what was happening. But overall, I think it's made me such a better person, a better version of myself. I understand myself better. I understand my friendships better. I understand relationships better. I understand dynamics and why people do things and why people say things and why I do and say things. And I feel like I have this clarity now that I did not have before, because it was just like covered with like emotions that I hadn't dealt with. So you gotta, did I say get through it to go through it? Whatever it is, you have to go through it. Can't go under, can't go over. Gotta go through. And I don't know. I'm feeling a lot better. And I hope that clarity stays for 28, because I do not need another year like 27. I hope you maybe took something out of these things that I learned. Let me know if any of them are similar to things that you've learned in the past year. I'm feeling very preachy with this list, but I'm sorry. It's just how I'm feeling recently. And I think this next year is going to be one where I evolve a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of change, good change in this next year. And I am excited for the next year. I'm always excited for another year of life, but I'm still a little anxious about my age for some reason. So maybe I'll update you next week on if I feel any better, and I'll let you know how the birthday party goes, because I am having a birthday party with a friend of mine, and I am going to dinner and celebrating. I am celebrating my birthday, so maybe they'll change. Maybe being surrounded by people I love will change my perspective on it. Thank you for listening to this edition of the Self-Care Sunday edition of, I need to like learn how I'm going to say this, the Self-Care Sunday edition of the Talking Fast podcast. This will also go out with our regular Wednesday episodes. So we have another episode dropping Wednesday. It's like an interview style. And then on Sundays will be just you and me talking, catching up. Let me know if you want any specific topics. You can shoot me a message on Instagram, or you can join our broadcast channel, or any of those things. And I'd love to know what topics you want. If you want me to dive more into any of the things that I've learned in 27, whatever you want to talk about, I am gladly here to ramble and yap on, because as you can learn by me not stopping for a single breath, I can yap all day long. So let me know what you want to hear. We are going to figure out what the Self-Care Sunday series means to us together. Thank you so much for listening. And I cannot believe when you're listening to this, it is the eve of my 28th birthday, or maybe I am already 28. Let's hope it's a little bit better this year. With that, I will see you in the next podcast. Bye.